In a league where every second counts, where every throw can change a career, and where pressure breaks more players than it builds, there's one name that keeps coming back into the conversation: Shedeur Sanders. A quarterback carrying more attention, more expectations, and more criticism than most rookies ever face. But the real question isn't who he is. The real question is what he's becoming. From the moment Shedeur stepped into the NFL spotlight, everything changed. The media started watching every movement, fans started debating every throw, and analysts started splitting into two sides: those who believe he's the future, and those who believe the pressure is too much, too soon. But inside the building, inside the locker room, the story sounds a little different. Because what coaches are seeing every day is not just hype. It's growth, it's adjustment, and most importantly, it's consistency under pressure. Right now, in Cleveland, the quarterback situation is not simple. It's not stable. It's not decided. It's a full battle. Shedeur Sanders is competing in a room filled with experience, expectations, and urgency. Every practice feels like a test. Every rep feels like an evaluation. And every decision from the coaching staff could shift the entire direction of the season. Deshaun Watson brings the weight of experience, a player who has seen the highest level, played under pressure, and carried expectations before. Dillon Gabriel brings energy, hunger, and a different kind of competition. And in the middle of it all, Shedeur Sanders is trying to carve out his place. Not by reputation, not by name, but bar performance. And this is where things start to get interesting. Because according to reports from inside the facility, Shedeur is not fading under pressure. He's responding to it. His timing is getting sharper. His reads are becoming faster. And his confidence is slowly starting to show in ways that coaches notice immediately. He's not just throwing the ball anymore. He's processing defenses. He's adjusting at the line. He's starting to play like someone who understands the speed of the NFL game. But the NFL is not a place for small improvements. It's a place where everything is magnified. One mistake becomes a headline. One good practice becomes hype. And one decision can define an entire career trajectory. That's the environment Shedeur Sanders is living in right now. And still, he keeps showing up. Day after day. Rep after rep. No shortcuts, no excuses, just work. Inside the organization, the conversations are starting to get louder. Some believe the gap is closing faster than expected. Some believe he's becoming a real option sooner than planned. And others still believe experience will win in the end. But nobody is ignoring him anymore. And that alone changes everything. Because in the NFL, attention is power. And when a young quarterback starts forcing people to talk, starts forcing coaches to evaluate differently, starts forcing competition in a room that already feels settled, that's when the story shifts. Now the pressure is not just on Shedeur Sanders. The pressure is on everyone around him. Coaches have to decide when potential becomes production. Veterans have to protect their position. And the organization has to decide what direction they believe in more: experience or evolution. And through all of this noise, one thing stays constant. Shedeur Sanders is still climbing, learning, still pushing forward, and still refusing to disappear from the conversation. Because whether people believe in him or not, whether they doubt his timing, his readiness, or his ceiling, he is still right there in the battle, still fighting for a role, still fighting for respect, and still trying to turn potential into reality. And maybe that's the real story. Not just a quarterback competition, but a test of patience, development, and belief under the brightest lights in football. So as the season moves forward, one question remains unanswered. Is this the moment Shedeur Sanders breaks through, or just the beginning of a longer climb? Either way, the NFL is watching, and the story is far from over. Inside the Browns organization, everything is starting to tighten. The margin for error is shrinking. Every practice is being filmed, analyzed, reviewed, and broken down frame by frame. And in that environment, nothing is hidden. Not accuracy, not decision-making, not leadership. Shedeur Sanders is still in the middle of the quarterback battle. But now, the energy around him feels different. Earlier, it was curiosity. Now, it's expectation. And expectation is a completely different kind of pressure. Because when you're seen as the young guy with potential, people give you time. But when you start showing flashes of real capability, that time disappears fast. And suddenly, every mistake matters twice as much. Reports from inside the building suggest that the competition is becoming more intense than ever. Not just physically, but mentally. Quarterbacks aren't just competing on the field anymore. They're competing in meetings, in film sessions, in leadership presence, in how quickly they can process and respond to NFL-level complexity. And this is where Shedeur Sanders is being tested the most. Because talent alone is not enough at this stage. You have to think faster. You have to adjust faster. You have to lead faster. Coaches are watching one thing very closely. How does he respond after mistakes? Does he shake it off? Does he reset immediately? Or does the pressure linger into the next play? Because in the NFL, recovery is just as important as execution. And here's where things start to shift again. There are moments in practice where Shedeur doesn't just look like a rookie competing for a job. He looks like a quarterback trying to take control of a room, reading defenses pre-snap, trying to dictate tempo instead of reacting to it. That's the difference between surviving and competing. And slowly, that difference is starting to show. But the challenge remains brutal. Deshaun Watson still brings veteran command. Dillon Gabriel still pushes the pace and keeps the competition alive. And the coaching staff still has no reason to rush any decision. So Shedeur Sanders is stuck in the hardest position in football. Not good enough yet to be guaranteed anything, but good enough to be watched constantly. And that creates a unique kind of pressure, because every good moment raises expectations, and every bad moment brings doubt back instantly. There is no stability in that space, only momentum. And momentum is fragile. One strong week can shift the narrative. One rough practice can reset everything. But through it all, Shedeur keeps showing the same thing. He doesn't disappear under pressure. He stays in it. He keeps throwing. He keeps learning. He keeps competing. And in a league where many young quarterbacks fade when the spotlight gets too bright, that alone is starting to matter. Because coaches don't just look for perfect players. They look for steady ones. Players who don't panic. Players who don't break mentally. Players who keep building even when nothing is guaranteed. And now the real question is starting to form inside the organization. Is Shedeur Sanders just developing? Or is he getting closer than anyone expected? Because if this trend continues, if the growth keeps stacking, if the confidence keeps rising, then this is no longer just a battle for depth. It becomes a real conversation about the future. But for now, nothing is decided. Everything is still in motion. And every practice could tilt the entire story in a new direction. So as we move deeper into the season, Shedeur Sanders is still right there in the middle of it all. Still fighting, still learning, still proving, and still chasing the moment where everything finally clicks.